right, welcome back. Israeli and Palestinian protesters gathering in New York last night after the announcement of that ceasefire in the Middle East, bringing an end to the 11 days of war we've seen there, causing all that destruction inside Israel and in the Gaza Strip. All right, you can see some of the violence that ensued in New York last night, protests turning violent, that brawl between pro-Israeli and pro-Palestinian protesters. And then this happened. There was an incident yesterday, multiple people arrested here, and you can see, despite the ceasefire announcement between Israel and Hamas, the tension between the groups continues to escalate. Pro-Palestinian protesters are even accused of throwing fireworks, professional-grade fireworks, into a crowd in Manhattan's Diamond District. And if you know anything about New York, you know, they're obviously seeking out the Jews that work in the Diamond District. Now, if the fireworks during this protest remind you of anything, you might be reminded of the commercial-grade fireworks we saw used by Antifa during their protests in Portland last year. We're not saying there's a connection here, at least other than those fireworks. But let's talk about this more and what's going on with these anti-Semitic attacks. And welcome in the host of the Rubin Report, Dave Rubin, author of Don't Burn This Book, Thinking for Yourself in an Age of Unreason. You know, Dave, anyone who knows anything about New York City knows the Diamond District is where a lot of Hasidic Jews go to work. They wear their traditional clothing there, obviously identifiable. And we're seeing this in New York. We're seeing this in Los Angeles. People who are visibly Jewish are being attacked by these quote-unquote pro-Palestinian protesters. But there's got to be more to it than that.
Well, I don't think there's much more to it than that. This is what the left has wrought on America. They have played a deeply dangerous game of identity politics, and Jews don't fit the intersectional calculator. Jews are a minority with a brutal history that by most estimations probably shouldn't exist anymore, but somehow through hard work and education and family and freedom and liberty and all of the things it has afforded us, have become a successful minority. That is against the Marxist worldview. That is against now the modern Democratic Party worldview. That is against everything that AOC and Hamas spokesman Ilhan Omar and Bernie Sanders now stand for. So the fact that these people are specifically targeting Jews, they're not just targeting Israelis, not that that would be any better. As you're making a clear point, they are going to I lived in New York City most of my life. If you wanted to see some Jews, you'd go to the Diamond District. It's, you know, basically 2 blocks right there. You'd know exactly where to go. There to hunt down Jews. Simple as that. Yep. And, you know, silence from mainstream media. You're going to get virtually nothing out of CNN. I finally saw yesterday Jake Tapper he tweets every 2 minutes. He finally managed to tweet out one thing. I mean, this is what the left has brought. A bunch of us have been warning about it, and here it is. You know,
it's interesting. Jake Tapper is so quick on the trigger to call out our colleague Grant Stinchfield for his comments last week. But when they're, you know, throwing commercial-grade fireworks into, you know, pro-Israel demonstrators, it's hard for him to even say anything. You know, the other thing, too, Dave, you know, you're in L.A., and this one used to be one of the areas where, you'd have the Jewish community in Hollywood stand up with the way I think a lot of Americans feel in solidarity with Israel. And I love the fact that you posted this old clip of Joan Rivers, may she rest in peace, from back in 2014 here. She was asked about this same thing that happened, basically, 7 years ago. And here's what she said about this.
So I'm trying to get celebrity reactions to what's going on with the Palestinians and Israelis right now.
Let me just tell you, if New Jersey were firing rockets into New York, we would wipe them out. I am so bored. If we heard they were digging tunnels from New Jersey to New York, we would get rid of Jersey. So I don't want to hear anymore, oh, we'll do a partial truce. The Palestinians, you cannot throw rockets and expect people not to defend themselves.
You know, and the reporter from TMZ said, well, how do you know this, Joan? You're a comedian, you're an actress. And she's because I've been there. And I love the geographic reference there because that's what we're talking about. These aren't countries that are far apart. You know, this is Gaza literally launching these rockets indiscriminately down into Israel. And Joan Rivers, of course, had the spine to stand up. But today's Sarah Silverman, you know, she says Jews in the diaspora need allies. We are not from Israel. You know, that's modern Hollywood compared to old Hollywood. Dave.
Yeah, I mean, Sarah Silverman is just a disgusting, vile creature who's trying to buy herself an extra socially distanced party in Hollywood before they come for her. Let's not forget, she's been in blackface and made fun of gay people and blah, blah, blah. On her Twitter bio, it says that she's from Palestine. I mean, she's just an absolute self-hating joke. I have nothing else to say about her in case my feelings aren't clear. But we need Joan Rivers, and we need people that will stand up and tell the truth. Right. We are talking about an area of land the size of New Jersey, an obscenely tiny area of land, that there is one obscenely tiny Jewish state. There's an awful lot of Christian majority states, an awful lot of Muslim majority states. There are many Arab states in the area. As you know, no country known as Palestine ever existed. If the Egyptians, if they cared about their brothers in Gaza, they could open up the border, but no, they bombed the border. This is simply about whether Jews can exist or not. That's it. That's what this is about. And by the way, I think I can speak for all Jews when I say we don't want any special treatment. We want to be treated as crappy as everybody else, just not worse.
Well, you know,
that's what equality is all about. That's the promise of America, right? We can all treat each other like crap, but let's do it equally.
Right. No, it's well put, Dave, because that's what we do today. We treat each other like crap, but one group of our population shouldn't be treated worse than everyone else because it's something they have no control over, absolutely zero control over, and that's really what this boils down to.
And by the way, John, even if you disagreed with every single one of Israel's policies, which I don't, I'm not saying they're all right, but even if you disagreed with every single policy, we cannot have violent religious sectarian violence in the United States of America. And that is what AOC and Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, that is actually what they want, because that is the end of identity politics. When you will walk around and you will say, oh, black person must think this, Jew must think this, Muslim must think this, gay person must think this, and we'll all hate each other. And that will thus turn America into the very country that all of our grandparents fled. That's what they're trying to do.
And if I don't like what race you are, I don't have to do interviews with you as some Chicago,
Lightfoot, she's a real gem, that one, racist.
Well, we talked about her yesterday. I want to talk about Chris Cuomo now and the Cuomo brothers and the advisory firm that is Chris Cuomo, the media advisor to his brother Andrew Cuomo. Let's play the clip and the mea culpa here.
How I helped my brother also matters. When my brother's situation became turbulent, being looped into calls with other friends of his and advisors that did include some of his staff, I understand why that was a problem for CNN. It was a mistake because I put my colleagues here, who I believe are the best in the business, in a bad spot. I never intended for that. I would never intend for that. And I am sorry for that.
He never intended for that because he probably doesn't think about anything other than himself. And what's so ridiculous about this, Dave, is that we expect it to stop. They are brothers. They're going to talk. When you talk to your brother, or I talk to my sister, you talk about some of the most intimate things in your life. This isn't going to stop. This is going to continue. Of course. And how dumb is his audience for continuing to accept these apologies from him? Oh, I didn't mean to go outside without a mask on. Whatever.
John, did you just ask me how dumb CNN's audience is? Because I know we have a limited amount of time here, and I could probably refer to the numbers. Look. Chris Cuomo is a character actor, LARPing as a journalist. You know LARPing, the phrase LARPing, yes. Live action role playing. That's what the kids do in college when they pretend that they're, medieval knights and stuff. He's not a journalist. This is a man who, in the midst of pretending he was quarantining because he had COVID in his basement, and they did a very theatric moment when he came out of his basement as if he hadn't seen his family in weeks. It turned out a few days later it was exposed that he literally got into a fight with a bicyclist in the Hamptons in the middle of all that. This guy is a ridiculous buffoon. He should be fired, not because of cancel culture, but because of basic journalistic standards. He was a propagandist for his brother, who also is a murderer, by the way. I mean, we know that his brother sent all those people back into the old age homes.
Well, I always advocate for due process. So we'll say people have accused him of murdering folks, Dave. We can't really call him a murderer. He's never been charged with that, but,
John, I'm a little fired up today.
I got you.
I'll go with due process. All right, fair enough, John. You're a fine host, by the way. Yes, his brother, we know what they did. They were working together in tandem for PR when it was working for them. And then the second it was exposed, now they have to sort of turn on each other. But he's not a journalist. Right. He's not a journalist. No one at CNN is a journalist. These are propagandists. Simple as that.
Well put, Dave. All right, I want to do something here, pull back the curtain a little bit on our editorial process. There's so many stories every week. I always look forward to talking to you. But we're going to do something here we call stories we're not covering. A lot of media covered these stories this week,
okay.
And we're going to explain why we don't have time to cover them. I would have loved to cover the Prince Harry story, especially where he talked about the First Amendment being bonkers. I mean, this guy is the only thing more emasculating than those army recruitment ads here. But, you know, we don't have to talk about Prince Harry because we fought a whole war to not have to talk about
thank
guys.
God we don't have to talk about him. We don't have to care what he thinks about the First Amendment. And I don't care about his sit downs with Oprah or his bad marriage or the fact that he has now let the woke virus enter into the monarchy. And it'll probably take down the monarchy, too, because as we've talked about many times, this thing is an evil alien-like parasite. And once it's in, it destroys the institutions. So congratulations to the Queen.
Yes, we couldn't destroy the British Empire with our revolutionary forces, but Prince Harry might do it with his wokeness. The other story we don't have time to cover here, even though it's really juicy with all the back and forth, is Joy Behar and Meghan McCain. These ladies don't seem to like each other very much, and here's an example.
If it's not the Republican Party, shall I call it the QAnon Party? What shall I call your party now, who defends people like Matt Gaetz and goes against Liz Cheney? What are we supposed to call it?
I think you can call it whatever you want because your influence in the Republican Party is almost zero.
You know, Dave, I'll never understand. I mean, a lot of people watch The View. Why do people like to watch people tear each other's heads off so much, especially Joy Behar? She's just so mean-spirited.
Joy Behar is the end of the road of Sarah Silverman. Like Sarah Silverman, I'm sure you're a big Newsmax viewer. It's like that is what you are going to become. Joy was once, years ago, believe it or not, a decent liberal. I used to live a couple blocks away from her in New York City, and we'd chat every now and again. And she was, I would say, a moderate Democrat. But like all of them, she has really completely lost her mind and now fights for the very things that she used to fight against and vice versa. Meghan McCain is fantastic. You know, I don't agree with all of her positions. I know her a little bit personally, but she is fighting. I mean, imagine what a hostile situation that is.
A new
to be
mom,
around that audience and those women all day long saying awful things about you just so that you can be all she is a moderate conservative. It's not even as if the Trump people love her so much. You know what I mean?
No, the Trump people definitely don't love Meghan McCain. There's no love lost between the two. But yeah, you make a great point. And Meghan McCain does, strike a chord a lot of times. Last story we're not going to cover, Dave, is this, very disturbing trend in the NBA of flopping going on. Somehow European soccer has infected the NBA. When we were growing up, Dave, it was a rough and tumble league. You got, Charles Oakley and Patrick Ewing going against, Michael Jordan. And now LeBron flops at the slightest little, hint of contact. What's going on? I mean, we don't have to cover it. We don't have to cover it, Dave, because apparently nobody watches the NBA anymore.
Well, nobody watches the NBA anymore. This is the most NBA I've watched in about 3 years, so thank you for that, John. But I would say LeBron, who's the worst of the worst, his flopping is just a metaphor for all his political beliefs.
Yes.
They don't stand up to anything. He says something, and then he flops the second he realizes what he said is nonsense. Still waiting on you to comment on China, LeBron, but I know you want that contract. I know that's tough. Sure. Million Uyghurs being genocided, but, America's racist, right? LeBron, yeah, come on.
Yes. Oh, I hope he's okay. I mean, I don't want to see.
Boy, the NBA sucks. Look at that.
It really does. It's
Man,
so
I miss
awful.
Those bad boy Pistons. Come on.
Yes, the good old days. Larry Bird used to. Oh, those were the good old days. Anyway, Dave, great to see you.
Good to see you, John.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop yelling, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.